Okay guys, take a knee for a second, because I'm going to lay something heavy on you, and no, I'm not referring to last night's fajitas. I've got to come clean about something. I'm not really a fan of multiplayers. Look, I've just never really been into them is all. If my experiences with multiplayers has taught me anything, it's that multiplayer games are like public transport. It's not the thing itself that I dislike, it's just everyone else. So I guess what I'm saying is that I hate everyone equally, so don't take it personally. My experiences with multiplayers started out when I was still at school. A mate of mine got me into a game called Habbo Hotel, in which you did... can't really remember, but I quickly learned that there was only two ways of making money in that game. Either by spending real life money on it for in-game money, or scamming as many people you could out of furniture. And while all of my friends around me were into it, I was just left there standing like some sort of freak, thinking, I don't really like the idea of scamming people. So I stopped playing, also it was boring. After that I was dragged into RuneScape Classic, kicking and screaming, but I ended up actually quite liking that game. Though admittedly I did end up spending most of my time fishing for lobsters so I could trade them in for certs, so I could then go to market and sell them, phase 3 equals profit. And then that game got a graphics update, and my Stone Age family PC couldn't hack it, so that was the end of that. Since then, I've barely gotten into multiplayer games again. There were some exceptions though. I did try Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and quickly found out that that community was toxic. I liked Tribes Ascend, but unfortunately I was shit at that, so that was a no-go. So the only multiplayer that I've truly gotten into was Team Fortress 2, God bless that game. But MMOs in particular will stay with me at the back of my mind, and it seems that the magic that was RuneScape Classic back in the early 2000s never truly left me, but never again would I truly get invested in one. I never properly played World of Warcraft, though I know bits about it from friends. I tried getting into Star Wars The Old Republic, but found that to be difficult because I was playing free to play, and a lot of it is locked off unless you go for a subscription. I tried Elder Scrolls Online and found it to be bland, with at least half of Tamriel locked off from you. And so, time and time again, I found myself turning away from MMOs. And yet there was one MMORPG that I kept hearing about. It's kind of common knowledge at this point that the king of MMORPGs is WoW, but another name kept popping up every now and again, and that was Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn. So I did my research into it, and found out that it was shit. But then I realised that that was referring to what it started out as. Apparently this game was really shit when it first came out, but after the devs realised that it was really shit, they literally nuked their own product and started from scratch, shutting down the servers in one of the most epic and awesome ways possible, with a cutscene of the world getting annihilated by a fuck-off demon. And because I've got a mate who plays this, and another mate who owns this, and I really need to get him to start playing it, I thought, to hell with it, let's try another MMO. That was about a month and a half ago, and as it turns out, I'm still there, and will be for the foreseeable future. You play the part of some dude or dudess in the world of Eorzea. It's been 5 years since the calamity, known as the Calamity, in which the world was almost annihilated by a giant primal, or should I say, when the previous server was shut down. Since then, the city-states of Uldar, Gridania, and Limsa Lominsa have been trying to rebuild. However, their progress is being hampered with the arrival of the Garleans, who now wish to expand their empire throughout 12 Woods and the surrounding regions. But as it turns out, you hold a special power that both the Scions of the Seventh Dawn and the Ascians are after. Thus you team up with the Scions to— hang on. Is anyone else really fucking confused right now? I've dubbed this term as Infinite Undiscovery Syndrome, where a fictional world starts off by throwing tons of names, places and terms at you, and expecting you to know what all of that shit means right away. To start this off on a negative, I found Final Fantasy XIV's lore and story to be incredibly overwhelming to begin with. You're constantly meeting new people at the start, and hearing others talk about certain names and places like they should mean something to you. But at this point, everyone is either some dude or some chick, and any place you haven't been to yet is just some place. However, after some acclimatization, you will eventually start picking up things and finally feel like you have a basic understanding of what's going on. Stick with it is my recommendation, because after you do, the story and the game's main mechanics slowly begin to open up to you, and it must be said that there are some good characters here. The main story is mainly centered around We've gotten wind that an Aeon from one of the previous games has shown up and will fucking destroy the world if you don't do anything. Grab some other players and waste that cunt in an epic boss fight. You'll also meet a wide variety of characters, some awesome, and some not. There's Gigi of the Goldsmiths Guild, who is basically an even more aggressive and angry version of Marvin the Martian. There's the Sultana Nanamo, who comes across as quite cute and endearing, right up until she declares a fuck-off war near the end of the original level 50 cap. There's Nasuhu Mahak... Fuck it, I'm not even going to try and pronounce her name, but she's fun all the same. And finally, there's Minfilia and her glorious chest, or to give her full name, Let's Minfilia Tits. And as is tradition with MMOs, the game starts out with you creating your own character. And as is true review tradition, I usually go with a name that's fucking stupid. Like in Star Wars The Old Republic, I joined the dark side, so obviously I ended up calling myself Darth Marsh the Darsh. What's worse is that you're allowed to name your own legacy in that game, thus I became known as Darth Marsh the Darsh of the Born Legacy. But in Final Fantasy XIV, I gave it some thought and tried to come up with a name that I thought would fit in here. Then I clicked the OK button, and then immediately regretted it. God damn it, I sound like an Oblivion NPC. You can change that if you want to, but there's a $10 charge and that's just not worth it. You know what, let's come up with something better for this video. There. That'll do. But you don't have to stick to the main quest if you don't want to, because there's other things to do as well. In fact, I was blown away by how much other stuff there is to do in this one. Don't want to do the main quest? No problem, we've got you covered. There's an insane amount of side quests about the place. Or you could take on another class or job. Don't want to do any quests at all? No problem. Here's a hunting log of your current class where you can go off and kill certain creatures, like a Pokédex that encourages animal genocide. Or there's a crafting and gathering log that keeps track of what you found/made. There's a sightseeing log where you can go off and check off places that you've seen. Or you can do what I did, and make your own log of stupid places you can find to sit down in, and it's actually quite the challenge. Check it out. You've got the Duty Finder, which lets you go for another round of any party-based activity you've already unlocked. You can join one of the 3 grand companies and work your way up through the ranks. You also have timed scenarios known as Fates, where you have to complete an objective in a certain amount of time, which yields some good rewards. Or hell, you can hit up the Golden Saucer and gamble your life away. No, it's alright, because it doesn't involve loot boxes or real life money. I have to say though, the best part of this game is easily the dungeons. A scenario where you're paired up with 3 other players, and where you have to go through a dungeon, working together and defeating loads of monsters, completing minor objectives, and usually fighting 3 bosses along the way. And the reason why I love this part is that victory or defeat entirely depends on how well your team works together. Regardless of your role, you will be expected to pull your own weight, and you will have certain responsibilities to attend to. You see, this game has a lot of choice when it comes to what sort of character you want to play as. You can be an archer, an assassin, a warrior, a conjurer, a mage of sorts that has a name that I'm not going to try to pronounce, or like me, you could be a paladin. However, what this really boils down to are 3 classes. Tank, healer, and damage per second, and all 3 operate in a very different way. DPS players are expected to do most of the damage when fighting monsters, as well as handling smaller enemies during boss fights. The tank's job is to piss off all enemies present, so that all of the damage is going to him and not the rest of the party, freeing up everyone else to do their job without the risk of dying. And finally, the healer does the healing and debuffing. And it is vital that everyone is doing just that, because if the DPS players aren't doing their job, then we're going to be here all day. If the tank doesn't do his job, then the rest of the party gets wiped out, and if the healer isn't doing his job, then the tank goes down, followed shortly by the rest of the party. I primarily play as a tank, so it's my job to make sure that all enemies are attacking me, keeping up the hate on me while lowering it for everyone else, and getting the enemy into a position where they can't attack the rest of the party. It's also my job to keep up a good rotation of defensive buffs, so as to make the healer's job a little bit easier, but it's also my job to keep an eye on the rest of the party to make sure that they're not getting attacked by someone else. It's a lot of work, but I have to say, I really enjoy it, and I wasn't expecting that when I first loaded up this game. You've also got raids, which are larger party events, or even Palace of the Dead, where you go into a dungeon at level 1 and level up as you go, with each floor getting harder. Oh yeah, the combat. Well, it's pretty much what you'd expect from an MMO, with hotkeys. Hotkeys everywhere. Most of them will be attack based, but you also get your usual buffs for damage, defense, area attacks, area buffs, just not area codes I'm afraid, sorry Luda. Some classes will attack from a range, while others will attack close up, and you can take on as many classes as you want. As said, I primarily play as a tank, but I've also got 2 DPS jobs, and I also recently became a healer too. In fact, you can take on every class and job if you want. There's no limit to what you want to take on, unless you take on everything, in which case then that's your limit. You also can take on other skills that aren't combat based. In fact, you can forget about combat on the main quest if you really don't like fighting. By all means, spend your time crafting stuff so you can then sell all of it for loads of cash at the market. The game caters to that too. You can become a blacksmith and make weapons, a goldsmith and make jewellery, an alchemist to make potions, a weaver and make clothing, and an armourer and make... Do I really have to explain that one? And there's much, much more. You can also become a botanist or even a miner if you wanted to. And as you play more and make friends, you can join a player-created free company, or even create one yourself, which offers certain bonuses, such as being able to buy and activate certain buffs through company actions. Then there's the market board, where you can sell or buy items, loads of mounts you can get, creatures to collect that don't do anything but follow you around. They're basically an accessory. You can technically buy property in the form of a free company house, or a room at the company that you've already joined, and because this game is so fucking huge, there's literally no end to what you can do. The main quest line goes on forever, with nearly 300 quests to the main game alone, and that's not including the 2 expansions that have come out that add about as much more to it. And thus, even after a month and a half have passed, the adventures of the formerly homeless Oblivion NPC and his 2 trusty companions, Nagibo the Chocobo and Lil Mac, set off to dive into this game once more, because even after the amount of time I've played and the level I've reached, I've only barely scratched the surface. I think I'm making it too obvious that I like this game. Having said that, this game is far from perfect, and there are some aspects about it that I'm really not big on. I've mentioned how overwhelming the lore of this game is when you first start out, and that can be a turn-off if I'm honest. This game doesn't exactly do a good job of welcoming you in and easing you into the setting. But my biggest complaint with this has to do with the side quests. Some are really good, don't get me wrong. Some are quite funny, like that one quest where you have to cheer up a snowman who's gotten all philosophical all of a sudden, and the entire questline involving Hildebrand is so stupid that I love it, and when this game wants to get random, it does it big time. But unfortunately, this is only a very small fraction of the type of side quests you'll get. Most of them are so fucking lazy. Hey, I'm trying to run this farm here, but we keep getting attacked by monsters, so go and kill... I don't know, 4 of them. Thanks. Okay, so you want me to go and talk to this other guy, right? Okay, so I'll just go over there. And we did it. Good job. And unfortunately, this is most of them, and the temptation to just skip through the dialogue is huge, because you know that you've already read it, or something similar to it in the last quest. Which isn't good, because then you're probably going to miss a good side quest when you eventually get to one. In fact, the 101 quests that come between the main game and Heaven's Ward are just so fucking dull. Oh my god, the Asians are still here and La Habrea isn't dead? We need to act fast, so if you could go and find some kids that are playing hide and seek, that'd be great, thanks. Are you kidding me? In conclusion, I wasn't expecting to like this game as much as I do, and that's coming from someone who doesn't really like MMORPGs. I was also a little skeptical about the subscription fee here, which in the UK is £8.99 if you want to be able to create more than 1 character per server. But after playing this game for as long as I have been and will be continuing to long after this video, I'm actually quite happy with that price. This game is fucking massive, and completing it? Just not an option. as new content and quests are being released often. Having said that, this isn't the sort of game you can pick up for a few days and then put down. If you're gonna get this game, then you need to be prepared to put aside a lot, and I mean a lot of time for it. I know people who have been playing this game for years, and even they still haven't done everything, nor reached max level in everything. And that's pretty much it for this video. Now if you'll excuse me, I need to go and ask random people if they've heard any news about the other provinces in an awkward manner. Have you heard any news about the other provinces? I've heard others say the same. Farewell.
Sometimes I think this life is killing me. Sometimes I think this life is killing me.